Lord of Mystery. The Return of the Stars Chapter 601 to 610. Mr. Fool has reached a consensus with the stars? The eyes of the Tarot Club members lighted up slightly. This can be said to be a landmark event. Since they were taken to the Grey Fog and became members of the Tarot Club, they have never heard Mr. Fool clearly express his position. He does not belong to the 6 major churches of the past, nor does he belong to the evil secret existence of the real creator, which seems to be a camp independent of all camps. Now, Mr. Fool finally made it clear that he is in the same camp as the stars. Thinking of the confrontation between the stars and Adam in this period of time, I don't know how much trouble it has caused. Maybe Mr. Fool has also contributed a lot to it. Audrey looked much more relaxed. She has always respected Mr. Fool, an ancient secret existence. If Mr. Fool and Mr. Hasta are hostile, then she will worry about which side to choose. She can't bear to leave the Tarot Club, nor will she abandon Mr. Hasta. Fortunately, such an extreme situation will not happen. Adam and the true creator are gradually taking back the authority of the ancient sun god. Klein decided to tell the Tarot Club some knowledge between the gods. At present, only the authority of the god of knowledge and wisdom remains. He has chosen to accept the protection of the stars. What will happen if Adam and the true creator collect all the authority of the ancient sun god? Alger asked. He has always been curious about the knowledge of the high sequence level. This is a good question. Klein sighed in his heart. He couldn't see through what the future would be like. Will Adam and the true creator, who have become the ancient sun god again, become the king of gods? Or will they hunt down all the enemies who have grudges against him and the gods who are threatening, and become the only god? Will there be a new king of the 8 angels born? Will the end of the world be brought forward or ended because of this? He does not have the ability to see through the future yet. But the answer to this question is very simple. Mr. Fool smiled and said in a nonchalant tone, "That kind of future will not happen." Alger was shocked. This is the power of Mr. Fool. Why won't that future happen? Because Mr. Fool disagrees. In Silver City, Derek sat alone on his bed, looking up at the ceiling shrouded in darkness. He had just counted his heartbeats clearly, and now should be the time for the Tarot Club. But Mr. Fool did not lead him to the Tarot Club above the Grey Fog, and did not even tell him. He suddenly disappeared, and no matter how he prayed, he did not get a response. Everything seemed to go back to the beginning when he had not met Mr. Fool. Derek continued to count in his heart until a day passed, and he ended this boring and desperate behavior. The God-forsaken land is a day and night without the rising and setting of the sun and the setting of the moon, but he learned from the people of the Tarot Club how many seconds there are in a day and how to calculate them effectively. Counting his heartbeats is a feasible way, and he is sure that a day has passed. "Derek, you finally came out of the room. The chief is looking for you for something." A team member who was guarding outside Derek's room greeted Derek enthusiastically. "Derek, you don't look good? Have you not slept for a long time?" Derek forced a smile. "Didn't you just say that the chief wanted to see me? Let's go now, don't keep the chief waiting." "Okay, but are you really okay?" "I'm fine." Derek patted his chest, making a banging sound. In the meeting hall, Chief Colin and several Silver City elders gathered here. When Derek arrived, everyone's eyes swept over him one by one. Chief Colin asked with concern, "Derek, do you look unwell?" "No, I'm fine, really." Derek smiled brightly and waved his weapon deliberately. "Don't force yourself. This time, you are asked to come because there is something you need to complete," Chief Colin said solemnly. "The sage is going to the abyss to discuss with the god about allowing us to pass through the bottomless abyss. Silver City will send a few people to follow the sage, and you are one of them. If it is not convenient for you now, you can stay in Silver City and let other team members go." Derek said with a serious face, "Chief, please rest assured, I will definitely escort the sage to arrive safely. You can pack your luggage and prepare food and set off." Derek did not say a word during the whole process, but just looked at the Silver City resident named Derek with a little curiosity. She specifically asked Derek to follow her to the abyss of the Giant King's court because he was a believer of the Fool. But today, Derek was obviously not in good condition, and he was very worried. Negative emotions such as depression, pain, and disappointment were entangled with him. Chief Colin also saw this, but in the end he chose to believe Derek and the fool behind him. Soon, a 5-member team set out from Silver City and headed for the Giant King's court. In addition to Bernadette and Derek, there were also Mr. A and Elder Lovia, as well as a team member who was familiar with the road. It was still snowing heavily. Derek, who never felt cold when it snowed, felt a chill in his chest for the first time. Along the way, Mr. A and Bernadette occasionally talked, and the rest of the time they were on their way silently. With Bernadette and Mr. A, the monsters in the dark did not dare to act rashly, and arrived at the Giant King's court much faster than expected. Star believers, Bernadette wants to see the great omniscient and almighty. Arriving at the edge of the abyss, Bernadette saluted respectfully in the direction of the abyss. She chose to use the omniscient and almighty to refer to God, because this description of authority was the most detailed and accurate, and it sounded good. The empty abyss did not give a single echo. Bernadette shouted several times in succession, but there was still no movement. So far, she has understood that the other party wants to wait for the arrival of the stars or the fool. As a star believer, she is not qualified and has no right to represent the stars. But the stars and the fool don't seem to want to pay attention to this God. What are they thinking? What are they waiting for? Forget it, this kind of game between big men is far beyond my understanding. It seems that we need to stay here for a long time. Bernadette told Derek and others to camp here and prepare for a protracted war. After everything was done, Bernadette went to the nearby ruins that had not yet sunk into the abyss to observe and understand the knowledge and secrets of the ancient times. A few days later, they were still here. The God in the abyss did not show up no matter how they prayed. Mr. A came to the entrance of the bridge and stared at the bridge that spanned the entire abyss. After a while, Derek also came over. He stared at the bridge for a long time and said infatuatedly, "Can we leave the God-forsaken land by passing this bridge?" Well, passing through here, there is a golden sea outside, with a fiery red sun hanging high in the sky, and flocks of seabirds flying on the sea. Mr. A briefly described the scenery of the outside world. That world must be beautiful, right? It's beautiful, magnificent, and worth sharing with all life. I want to go out and see. Derek said as he walked onto the bridge. There was no fear of the abyss under his feet, only a yearning for the bright world. Be careful. Mr. A did not choose to stop him. At this time, trying is a courageous act. If you don't take the first step, you will never know what will happen next. Perhaps the gods are also watching here, watching them. Elder Lovia, who heard the noise, also came to the bridge. Her face was as cold as ice and she quickly caught up with Derek, trying to take him down from the bridge. Come back with me, it's too dangerous, you have to try, right? Derek avoided Elder Lovia's grab and continued to move forward. You will anger the great existence under the abyss. Then let me die here alone. Is it your turn to be a hero here? Elder Lovia tried to take Derek away, who was determined to take the risk. At this time, the originally calm bridge began to shake violently, and a cold wind blew out from the depths of the abyss. Derek was not affected, but Elder Lovia was blown off the bridge and was about to fall into the abyss. Mr. A, who sensed something was wrong, hurried forward, controlled his flesh and blood, stretched out his arms, grabbed Elder Lovia and brought her back from midair. Please don't blame us, great omniscient and omnipotent, and forgive us for our reckless interruption this time. While bowing, Mr. A took Elder Lovia back to the snow camp at the entrance of the bridge. Why? Elder Lovia looked ahead with a complicated look, wondering if she was asking Derek why he suddenly wanted to risk his life, or asking Mr. A why he risked saving herself. Because the beautiful hope is ahead. Mr. A spoke calmly, watching Derek walking on the bridge being swallowed by darkness. Is death the final destination of all living things? What will the world look like after death? Will it be better than the harsh environment of the God-forsaken land? If it is better, then his relatives and tribesmen will also have a good destination. Derek felt that he was simply crazy, thinking about these ultimate questions about death at such a young age. Walking on this bridge without guardrails, the black fog in front of him was filled with fog, as if there was no end. Every step forward could cause the entire bridge to shake. From time to time, a cold wind blew from the bottomless abyss under his feet, invading his internal organs from the soles of his feet. The coldness continued to stagnate, making his originally strong and powerful heartbeat gradually inaudible. And in front of him, there was still a darkness that never dissipated, and there was no end in sight. "Mr. Fool, are you looking at this place now? Or have you also abandoned our Silver City?" Derek was confused and had not yet gotten an answer. He fell on the bridge with a snap, curled up, and waited for his final fate. "Get up, your road has not yet come to an end, keep going." A whisper sounded, followed by a warm current flowing through his body, dispelling all the coldness and revitalizing his limbs. Derek opened his eyes blankly and looked around. He did not find Mr. Fool, and there was no one around him. He struggled to get up, looked up quietly for a long time, and then continued to walk forward. After Derek left, in the sky, above the clouds covered by darkness and lightning, a paper angel figure was slowly dispersing. Above the gray fog, Klein sighed. He still couldn't sit idly by and watch the fall of the little sun Derek, so he cut a paperman in Saphira Castle, turned into an angel, gave Derek a blessing, and helped him finish the last part of the journey. As for the consequences of doing this, he was ready to face it. He looked straight at the gray fog outside, which was shrinking its defense line in the face of a great enemy that God had tracked here from the giant king's court in the God-forsaken land. So that's how it is. The gray fog outside Saphira Castle rolled violently, and a voice came through the gray fog clearly. God did not show up, as if out of some kind of concern. He was just talking to him from a distance through the gray fog. Klein, who understood this, gradually let go of his worries and fears. The other party did not seem to intend to force his way into the gray fog, but did not want to get too close to the gray fog, and consciously maintained a certain safe distance. "God, the omniscient and omnipotent, the Lord of the Star Realm," Klein whispered, and then looked at the gray fog outside with a calm look in his eyes. He did not choose to speak, but waited for the other party to bring up the topic first. "Even though Saphira Castle is blocking me, I can still hear the fear in your heart." God's voice came through the gray fog again. "This is a very correct judgment. Don't worry, I don't have as much ill will towards you as you think. On the contrary, I can help you in some ways. For example, I can help you better control Saphira Castle. Now you are just the nominal owner of Saphira Castle. You can only passively use its power, but cannot actively use Saphira Castle to its true purpose." Klein, who had been silent all the time, heard this and said in a deep voice, "What do you seem to be afraid of?" "It's not fear, but I don't want some annoying guy to wake up because of me, so I can't get too close to Saphira Castle." "So, do you understand?" Understood. Klein really understood the meaning of what God said. Saphira Castle once had a real master, who was hostile to God. The one who left a resurrection plan in Saphira Castle, himself and even those traversers on the Light Gate, their meaning of existence is to awaken the master of Saphira Castle. According to the mystical knowledge he knew, the authority held by the master of Saphira Castle must be across the three extraordinary paths of fortune teller, apprentice, and thief. Just like the ancient sun god, the authority across 5 extraordinary paths. So only he who chose the fortune teller path could enter Saphira Castle, while Russell and Hastur just avoided this necessary condition to enter Saphira Castle. Such an existence surpassed the true God of Sequence 0 and was a terrifying existence called the Old One. God should also be one of the powerful Old Ones. If he gets too close to Saphira Castle, the powerful threat will stimulate the consciousness of the master of Saphira Castle to awaken in advance, so he will talk to him in this way. This is the same as what Hastur said, God may be an enemy, or he may help himself. As for where the master of Saphira Castle will awaken, Klein looked down at himself, and he was the best awakening container for the master of Saphira Castle. Just as God awakened in the body of the ancient sun god, the master of Saphira Castle will also awaken in his body one day. He had thought of such a possibility, but after it was really confirmed, his mood was also complicated and incomprehensible. "It seems that you have realized your dangerous situation." God's voice continued to come in. "Based on my understanding of him, he will probably awaken from your body when you are Sequence 1 or Sequence 0. In other words, if you want to save your life, it is best to stay at Sequence 2 forever." Because I don't want to see my old friend wake up, so don't force me to find your body and imprison you forever. This is also for your own good, remember my advice. With the departure of God, the gray fog returned to normal, and Klein finally breathed a sigh of relief. Judging from God's performance today, it seems that he simply does not want the master of Sephiric Castle to awaken from his body. Sequence 2. Is this the end of his path? Klein was not too angry or sad about the fact that the extraordinary path was cut off at Sequence 2. The angels on Earth should be able to protect themselves in the future. It is better than reaching a higher sequence and being awakened by the master of Sephiric Castle in his body. After understanding this, Klein felt much more relaxed than before God came. He already understood God's position, so he did not need to deliberately avoid the God-forsaken land, and could help the little son and the residents of Silver City leave the God-forsaken land. Well, he had to think of a suitable excuse first. In the God-forsaken land, above the abyss of the Giant King's court, Derek had already walked across the bridge and arrived on the other side. He had heard the sound of the sea tide hitting the coast, smelled the fishy smell from the sea, and saw the sun gradually sinking into the depths of the sea. Had he left the God-forsaken land? Derek stood there blankly, looking at the dim world in front of him in disbelief. Various emotions surged in his heart. He wanted to laugh a few times, but in the end he squatted on the ground, wiping his tears and crying without any image. It turns out that Silver City only needs to cross a bridge to leave the God-forsaken land. It turns out that heaven and hell are only separated by a wall. It turns out that the bright land that their ancestors have been looking for is not far ahead. Woo woo woo. Derek cried for a long time, until his eyes were red and swollen. He came to his senses and remembered to tell the chief and others about this great event so that all the residents of Silver City could leave the God-forsaken land. He staggered to his feet and wanted to go back along the original route. At this time, deep in his heart, he heard the familiar voice from Mr. Fool that could make people cry. You did a good job. Derek was stunned for a moment, stopped sobbing, but in the end he couldn't help crying again. He really thought he had been abandoned by Mr. Fool. It seems that the warmth and call he felt when he was unconscious just now also came from Mr. Fool. Seeing this 2-meter-tall man crying without any image in front of him, Klein was filled with emotion. If it weren't for the fact that God's position happened to overlap with his, he might have really given up on Derek and Silver City. That paper angel was the limit of what he could do. Any further attempts and contacts were too dangerous. Mr. Fool. Derek knelt down and worshipped the sky, praising the Fool. Klein just smiled at the scene. After Derek's excitement was slightly restored, he told Derek why he had ignored him for a while. The pursuit of light requires unyielding courage and unswerving faith. This sentence can probably be used to explain it all together. Derek suddenly realized that this was Mr. Fool's test of himself, not abandonment. He has been watching him and Silver City all the time. Praise the Fool. In the ruins near the King's Court of Giants, Bernadette was slowly observing the murals and exploring the obscure knowledge passed down here in the past. As for Derek's previous independent adventure, she had let it go. To pass here, it is clear that the stars and the Fool need to appear to negotiate with that god. Since the stars are unwilling to come, let the Fool solve the matter. Derek is a believer in the Fool, and there is no more suitable person to test him than him. The result was not what she expected. Derek successfully crossed the bridge and came back alive. Looking at the smile that couldn't be concealed on his face, it was obvious that he had crossed the abyss and reached the bright world on the other side. Bernadette walked out of the abandoned ruins and came to the entrance of the bridge. Derek, who had just returned, saluted Bernadette respectfully and then began to talk about the entire journey. He attributed almost all the credit to Mr. Fool's protection, and even called these trials from the Fool. Only believers with both courage and faith can successfully pass through the abyss and reach the world of light. Did you really see the sun? Did you see the new world? Elder Lovia was still a little unbelievable. Derek said firmly. Really, I saw the sun, saw a world without lightning and darkness, smelled the fishy smell from the sea, and received the blessing of Mr. Fool. Elder Lovia was silent for a long time and knelt down to worship in the distance. After doing all this, Elder Lovia's expression returned to normal and said,
We should go back and inform the chief of the news.
Derek also agreed with this approach. Only Bernadette was speechless. She came to the edge of the abyss and spoke to the bottom of the abyss again. The great omniscient and omnipotent one, are you willing to send down your gifts and kindness so that the residents of Silver City can travel through the abyss and pass by, leaving the place abandoned by God? After a while, a brand new altar appeared at the entrance of the bridge, enshrining a new divine emblem that was neither the stars nor the fool. The meaning is very clear. If the residents of Silver City want to leave the land abandoned by the gods, they must worship a god more devoutly, the omniscient and omnipotent person who lives here, God.
Praise be to thy mercy. Bernadette, who understood, bowed again.
Do you, Silver City, mind if you devoutly believe in a great being again? Facing Bernadette's question, Derek and Elder Lovia looked at each other and said, such an important matter needs to be decided by the chief. I don't think the chief will refuse such a kind request. Bernadette nodded. Let's go back. Next time we will leave the land abandoned by God together. A few days later, a group of 5 people returned to Silver City. Derek was responsible for reporting what happened along the way. Chief Colin agreed to God's request.
As long as the residents of Silver City can leave the land abandoned by God and see the light, they can bear any price.
With Derek's return, because he was the first resident of Silver City to see the outside world, he was surrounded by everyone all day long, and they took the trouble to ask him to describe the details of the outside world.
At the same time, everyone in Bayan City began to pack up their things, preparing to move the entire city and leave the land abandoned by the gods together.
Bernadette was still soaking in the library collection room in Silver City. While she was reading quietly, the silent genie emerged from the wishing lamp. I thought you were going to hide until we left the land abandoned by God and come out. Bernadette put down the book in her hand and mocked lightly. The djinn snorted coldly, ignored Bernadette's sarcasm, and said with an angry look on his face, "Do you know why God made such a request?"
What do you think? Haha, he just wants to share the faith of Silver City with the stars and the fool.
For an existence like him, is Silver City's faith important? Regarding this point, Bernadette had doubts in her heart.
It's not important at all. The Jinn god sneered and said, it's just because the stars and the fool value Silver City that he followed suit and laid a chess piece. Just when Bernadette was about to continue asking, the Jinn suddenly seemed to think of something, and kept mumbling the word, follow the trend, in his mouth.
Silver City, new faith, stars, fool, God, follow the trend. New 3 pillars of gods? The genie seemed to suddenly understand the key. His expression was shocked, and he had an expression of unwillingness and regret on his face. Damn God, how come all good things happen to you? No wonder you stay here and refuse to leave. Have you noticed something in advance? Is this really what the future will be like? The figure of the genie floated back and forth, mumbling something in his mouth.
Bernadette didn't say anything to interrupt the jinn's train of thought. Anyway, in the end, he would definitely be unable to hold back and speak out. The madness of the jinn god lasted for about 10 minutes before he quietly returned to the wishing lamp and sighed heavily. As expected, I can't catch up with anything, even if there is such a possible opportunity in front of me.
What are the 3 pillars of gods you just mentioned? Bernadette grasped the key words from the mysterious murmur of the jinn just now. Oh, I'm too far away from you. The jinn looked at Bernadette with disdain. I connected the things after thinking about it for several times. How can I tell you the answer I got in the end so easily? I can guess it even if you don't say it. Bernadette was not affected by the sarcasm of the lamp god, and said calmly, the stars, the fool, and God will replace the original 3 pillars and become the new 3 pillars. Tisk, you are very smart, but you have too little knowledge. You have too much knowledge, so you feel unwilling because of it? The lamp god ignored Bernadette and turned to merge into the wishing lamp. This time, the lamp god's attitude was particularly firm. What exactly are the 3 pillars that the lamp god refers to? This question must be very important to make the lamp god lose his composure like this.
Is this the reason why the stars and the fool value the Silver City together?
Bernadette did not continue to think deeply. As the lamp god said, such a question was too far away from her. The Silver City's action efficiency was very fast. In order to leave the god-forsaken land, They brought enough rations and supplies. Under the leadership of Bernadette, they braved the heavy snow and headed towards the bottomless abyss where the giant king's court was located. The migrating team meandering through the snow was like a long black snake that kept crawling forward. It took about 10 days for the entire team to reach the edge of the abyss. Chief Colin didn't have time to rest. He came to the entrance of the bridge and ordered people to build the altar of the stars and the Fool, preparing to sacrifice to the three gods at once, thanking them for their protection, so that the residents of Silver City could leave the abandoned land of God. The lamp god emerged from the wishing lamp again, staring at the three altars with envy and jealousy. What he valued was the symbolic meaning of Silver City's behavior. The three existences of the stars, the Fool, and God became the objects of worship and belief of Silver City. The symbolic meaning here is enough to affect the possible future direction. This is even more true for God. Silver City originally believed in the ancient sun god, but now it has turned to believe in God, and the stars and the Fool are involved. This is simply a prejudgment of the final outcome of the ancient sun god. Bernadette didn't understand this, but he knew the serious relationship. If the ancient sun god saw this scene at this moment, he would probably fall into deep silence. Unfortunately, he will not approach the place where God is now. Otherwise, the residents of Silver City wanting to leave the God-forsaken land may cause more trouble. Alas! The lamp god sighed again. This time he did not return to the wishing lamp, but stared at Chief Colin for a while. After hesitating again and again, he could not help it. He floated over and came to Chief Colin. He raised his head slightly and said, "I can also provide protection for Silver City." Chief Colin was stunned for a moment. He did not prepare a fourth altar, and who was this phantom? Is it the genie of the lamp living in the genie lamp in the hands of the sage? Bernadette also looked over, but she did not stop the lamp god's behavior, but wanted to see what he wanted to do. Ahem, don't worry. The body of the lamp god swelled several times, shining with golden light, trying to make himself look more noble. He said solemnly, "What I want to do is very simple. When you offer sacrifices to the three gods who bless Silver City later, also mention that the Lord of the Kingdom of Order, the incarnation of rules and order, is willing to bless Silver City." Chief Colin was full of question marks. He didn't understand what all this was for, and wasn't it strange? When did their Silver City become so popular? How come there are new gods who want to bless Silver City? Bernadette on the side saw something. The lamp god was unwilling to fall behind God. Even if he couldn't get an altar, he wanted to get some fame at this time. The Lord of the Kingdom of Order, the incarnation of rules and order, this should be the complete honorific name of the lamp god. Sage, what do you think of this proposal? Chief Colin, who did not dare to make a decision on his own, threw this thorny problem to Bernadette to solve. The lamp god's eyes also fell on Bernadette, revealing that I would never give in to you, and I hope you can help me with my stubbornness at this moment. Bernadette looked at the sky first, but the stars did not appear, and then looked at the abyss, and God had no objection. She nodded, indicating that Chief Colin could agree to the lamp god's request. It was just a matter of adding a name. Under the sky full of darkness and lightning, mixed with heavy snow that seemed to never end, Chief Colin led the residents of Silver City to hold a sacrificial ceremony devoutly. The giant language passed down from ancient times, magnificent, vast, mysterious, and ancient, seemed to echo this God-forsaken land full of suffering. The music of the sacrifice seemed to penetrate the barrier of the white snow and reach the kingdom of God in the sky, and the gods should also look down with pity for this. Bernadette sighed in her heart. When she looked back, she looked at the lamp god. She saw that he was solemn and dignified at the moment, which was very suitable for this sacrifice. It seems that he acted very seriously and attached great importance to the faith in Silver City. Chief Colin, who served as the main priest, divided the three gods who protected Silver City according to their contributions to Silver City, and put the name of the stars in the first place, the Fool in the middle, God in the second place, and finally mentioned the honorable name of the lamp god. When he heard this, the lamp god showed a thoughtful expression on his face. When the sound of the sacrifice faded, the lamp god took the initiative to return to the wishing lamp. After the sacrifice, Chief Colin led the residents of Silver City to board the bridge in an orderly manner.
He asked Derek to walk in front and lead the way. Although the road ahead was dark and the bridge was shaking, the abyss never made any movement, allowing the residents of Silver City to pass smoothly. When the light belonging to the outside world replaced the sky full of darkness and lightning above their heads, the residents of Silver City walked down the bridge, ending this difficult and long journey. Above the gray fog, Klein was relieved to withdraw his gaze from Derek. The residents of Silver City finally left the God-forsaken land, and the little sun finally became the sun that illuminates the darkness, as he said. Everything went smoothly. Stars, fools, God, Silver City is really favored by the gods.
Klein whispered, and then left the gray fog. He still needed to drive the ship to greet the residents of Silver City. When Klein drove the ship and the fleet from Bernadette to the Sea of Ruins, Bernadette had already emerged from the seabed in the Nautilus.
She opened the way in front, leading the fleet forward, passing through the Sea of Ruins and arriving at the coast of the God-forsaken land.
There are two arrangements for the resettlement of Silver City. One is to go to the Rorstad Islands, and the other is to go to the territory of the Fool Believers. In the end, Chief Colin made a decision to let Derek lead some of the tribesmen to the Fool's territory, and he led the rest of the tribesmen to the Rorstad Islands.
Neither Bernadette nor Klein had any objections to such an arrangement. After the fleet left the Sea of Ruins, both parties left in different directions.
Mr. A also chose to return to the Rorstad Islands with Bernadette. It is said that he has received an oracle from the stars to become the envoy of God who leads this part of the Silver City residents and the Pope of the Church that believes in the stars. The Church of the Stars was established on the Rorstad Islands and officially became the state religion of the Kingdom of Star Sea. Mr. A will be the first Pope. The lamp god smiled and commented on this. It is really interesting that believers who believe in the true Creator turn into believers of the stars and even become popes.
Not long after, Mr. A, who had been promoted to Sequence 4 Black Knight in the Forsaken Land of God, was blessed by the stars and promoted to Sequence 3 Three Heads Holy Church.
On July 18, it had been half a year since the southern continent launched an attack on the Fainitport Kingdom. During this half year, the Balaam Empire, the Republic of Intis, Lenberg, and Siegel had more than a dozen head-on confrontations with the Fainitport Kingdom and the Loan Kingdom. On the front battlefield, the coalition forces from the Balaam Empire slowly and firmly eroded Fenet's defense line.
Although the speed was slow, it never stopped. In order to disintegrate the alliance between Fenet and Loan launched an increasingly difficult-to-ignore anti-war wave. Demand Loan to stop aiding Fenet and not drag the entire Loan into an endless war. As the war continued, the mentality of the residents of Southwell County gradually changed. Compared with the Loan Kingdom, which was fully committed to the war, Southwell County, which was isolated in a corner, was simply a paradise. Coupled with the economic nourishment of maritime trade, peace and wealth, it attracted many people from other parts of Loan to settle here. Feeling that the time was gradually ripe, Greg began to consciously instill in the people that Loan was a peace-loving country. But the Loan royal family was a war-crazed family. They wanted to destroy Loan for their own ambitions. In the southern continent, inside the palace of the Balaam Empire, Hester finally took some time out to accompany Audrey, Azishara, and Susie to the suburbs for a few days. During this period of time, he often stayed in the Hall of Stars, sometimes guiding the Yellow Clothes Church to attack the Aurora Society and the Twilight Hermit Society. And sometimes he transformed into incarnations of light and went to the war-torn places, revealing miracles and guidance, and bringing miracles and guidance to the people there. New hope, and sometimes monitoring the stars to prevent Adam and the true Creator from secretly planning something else. But what is surprising is that Adam and the true Creator have been a little too calm during this period of time, and I don't know what they are doing. Except for what the fallen Mother Goddess might have prepared in the Fuzak Empire. Everything else was quiet and nothing happened. After a rare moment of peace, Asta decided to relax for a few days and prepared to spend more time with Audrey to prevent her from getting too bored when she came to the southern continent. As for Sharon, since she came to the southern continent, her thoughts have been basically focused on the temperance sect of the Rose School. Currently, she is already the true leader of the temperance sect. Her teacher not long ago handed over this important task to her. Mr. Hester, it's time to go. Audrey was in a good mood today. She held Haster's right arm and said with a smile, "Susie can't wait to go to the woods to catch hares."
Woof. Susie, who was following behind, was wearing a small brown vest that Audrey had hand-sewn. There were fragrant dried fish in the left and right pockets. When Azishara wanted to eat, she would squat down and take two. Feed one to Susie and enjoy the other for yourself.
"How are your parents doing recently? Are you still used to life here?" Haster asked Audrey, Susie, and Ashera in the carriage that had been prepared.
They have gradually adapted to life in the southern continent, especially my mother. She has now become the most elegant woman among the noble ladies in the southern continent. Every day, a large group of noble ladies surround her, asking her about clothing, jewelry matching, skincare issues.
As for Earl Hall, he has almost become a frequent visitor to the king. Audrey said with a smile on her face. Feeling Asta's slightly apologetic eyes, she put her little hand on Asta's palm and gently leaned against Asta's shoulder.
Susie and Azishara, who were sitting across from each other, looked at each other and had a tacit understanding not to interrupt. Compared with the suburbs of Backland, the suburban manors in the southern continent have a bit more wild nature that has not been excavated by humans. Because of the climate and rain, the forest here is far more lush and tall than the small woods like Backland, making the person look particularly small. Not long after the carriage arrived at the suburban manor, Azishara turned into a little black cat and sat on Susie's back. Susie swooped out and ran into the dense woods. The relationship between them is getting better and better. I still remember that Azishara was very hostile to Susie. Haster smiled and told Audrey about how Ashera had always regarded Susie as an imaginary enemy because she was worried about being favored. No wonder I always vaguely heard the sound of a cat meowing outside the window at night. It turned out to be Ashera secretly looking for Susie. The two of them walked around the lake dugout behind the manor, followed the path, and gradually entered the forest. From time to time, I heard Susie's cry and Ashera's excited meow coming from not far away. When the sky gradually turned dark, Haster said hello, and Susie took Azishara out of the bushes and followed them slowly. When we reached the junction of the forest and the lake, there was a figure admiring the lake and waiting. A rabbit, or more specifically a person dressed as a rabbit. A white-furred rabbit wearing a black top hat and black formal suit, holding a cane inlaid with rubies the size of a dove. Haster and Audrey had met each other in the Garden of Eden, and at that time the other party was eager to point them to the treasure house of the Psychological Alchemy Society. If it weren't for the guidance of the other party, he and Audrey would probably miss the treasure trove of the Psychological Alchemy Society. At that time, Audrey asked him what Mr. Rabbit was. At that time, he did not tell Audrey about this person's identity. Unexpectedly, the other party came to visit on his own. "It's Mr. Rabbit." Audrey had a little expectation in her heart. The other party left a deep impression on her last time they met, but she did not speak first. Behind her, Azishara tugged on the golden hair on Susie's neck. Susie knowingly ran from behind to the front of Haster and Audrey, staring at Mr. Rabbit. "I came uninvited and bothered you. I hope the host won't be offended." Mr. Rabbit first smiled and apologized, and then continued. "I came here because I have something to talk to you two about. I don't know. Can you invite me to the manor for a cup of tea? If you have guests coming to visit from afar, of course you have to prepare a cup of good tea to treat them. Sir, please invite me here." Haster spoke with a smile and led Mr. Rabbit back to the manor. On the way, Audrey wanted to ask Mr. Rabbit's voice many times. Asta saw her doubts and smiled and asked her a question. Who is the most unavoidable person when studying linguistics? Hermes. Audrey's eyes brightened instantly when she thought of the answer, and she unconsciously looked at Mr. Rabbit, who was dressed in formal attire. He nodded slightly towards her and smiled gently. "It's really him, Hermes, one of mankind's earliest occult masters. The ancient Hermetic language he created possesses the magic of directly resonating with natural forces. He was active in the Dark Ages. As a master of mysticism in the spiritual field, the object of his research is the dragon that ruled the sky in the Second Age. The accurate description is the dragon of the spiritual family. Hermes, this is definitely the most inescapable person to study linguistics and psychology." Someone once commented that Hermes' contribution to mankind was greater than that of Emperor Russell.
Just creating the ancient Hermetic language is enough for him to be famous throughout the ages and be remembered forever by future generations.
Unexpectedly, such a legendary figure who often appeared in various psychological books was still alive and standing in front of him.
Did Mr. Hermes disappear from history after transforming into a rabbit? Audrey couldn't help but have some cute thoughts popping up in her head. Woof. Susie was not good at guessing riddles and wanted Audrey, who had obviously guessed the puzzle, to tell her the answer.
Huh? Mr. Rabbit exclaimed in surprise and glanced at Susie. He carefully looked at every inch of skin from beginning to end. Finally, he said with emotion, "What an extraordinary golden retriever dog, with the appearance of a giant dragon. Aw." Woof. Susie, who had her biggest secret revealed, subconsciously retreated and hid behind Audrey, looking uneasily at the red-eyed rabbit with burning eyes who seemed to want to completely strip her naked. Audrey smiled and said, "Susie, don't be afraid, this Mr. Rabbit is praising you." Woof. Susie still remained on guard, but her attitude softened. "It's not easy, it's really not easy. Maybe I can start a new project." Mr. Rabbit reluctantly glanced at Susie, who was hiding, and said to himself, "How to train a golden retriever dog into a real spiritual dragon. This is a very good idea." Asta nodded in approval of the idea and said with a smile, "Susie, you must cooperate with your teacher in conducting research on the project in the future." Woof. Susie trembled slightly and soon understood something. Her restless eyes immediately became excited. This time it was her turn to look at Mr. Rabbit from beginning to end. Mr. Hastur had told it before that if there was a chance in the future, he would find a suitable teacher for it. Hermes, that towering figure in psychology. I didn't expect to meet him on such an occasion today. He still looks like a rabbit. Could it be that Hermes is not a person at all? Like himself and Azishara, is it a creature that was lucky enough to take magic potion and eventually become a high-sequence Beander? I didn't expect that the other party, who was born in the Rabbit clan, would leave such a great reputation in history. Even humans would snatch it away and promote and worship it as one of their own. This is the path I want to take in the future. This is my sage. Thinking of this, Susie's eyes became more eager, looking at Mr. Rabbit standing in front of her with joy and admiration. "It seems that it is very close to me." Mr. Rabbit seemed very happy with the change in Susie's eyes. Audrey was close enough to understand the meaning in Susie's eyes. She knew that this kind of look often appeared when Susie looked at Azishara. It was a look at someone of the same kind. She struggled to hold back her smile and prevent herself from appearing too rude in front of Mr. Rabbit. After entering the manor and arriving at the living room on the first floor, Hastur waved away all irrelevant people before inviting Mr. Rabbit to the study on the second floor for a chat. Audrey, Susie, and Azishara also came to the study. "You should understand my difficulty if you see through it without telling me." After sitting down, Mr. Rabbit showed an apologetic look in his eyes. "Of course, I only know and recognize Mr. Rabbit in front of me." Hastur replied in the affirmative, and then waited for the other party to reveal the intention of his trip. "I come from the Psychological Alchemy Society, and my current identity is one of the 7 members of the jury." "Furious," Mr. Rabbit said and glanced at Audrey. "The last time you went to the Garden of Eden, I happened to be lucky enough to meet you, them. That's also our luck." Audrey replied politely, and the other person's identity deserved her politeness and admiration. "You should know that the original Psychological Alchemy Society was just a casual organization that simply discussed academics. Members who joined this organization all had their own passion for psychology. But now such an organization that freely discussed academics, pursued new knowledge, and tried to expand a wider field of psychology has begun to change its taste. Faith is not a bad thing, but because of the tendency of faith, a series of persecutions to exclude dissidents have been launched in the Psychological Alchemy Society. For members who are committed to academic research, this is an extremely heartbreaking thing. My personal ability is limited and I can't completely solve this problem. I need help." At this point, Mr. Rabbit looked at Asta, waiting for his answer. "I know why you came, and I can really help you solve this problem." Asta smiled and said, "But when you opened your mouth, I saw the future." You in the future can have another choice, and he can also help you." It turned out to be him. Mr. Rabbit did not show a disappointed expression on his face, but thought of another possible candidate. He had met the other party before, and at that time, he had a strange feeling. Now he has understood who he can ask for help in destroying the Garden of Eden. "Thank you for your advice. Your foresight is admirable." Mr. Rabbit stood up to express his gratitude. "It's time to end this interruption." "No hurry." Asta motioned Mr. Rabbit to sit back in his seat and waved. Susie trotted over, approached Asta, and rubbed her head against Asta's palm. "Mr. Rabbit, you don't have a suitable student yet, right? I have taught many students. Some of them are excellent, and some have gone astray." Mr. Rabbit looked at Susie and smiled meaningfully. "But none of them will inherit my legacy. If it is willing, it will be my last student." The last student generally has great significance. This means that a student who can inherit one's skills has been received, so there is no need to teach other students. Audrey was happy for Susie from the bottom of her heart, and at the same time a little envious. She actually wanted to be a student of this legendary figure and listen to his teachings. "I do. It's my honor." Susie spoke solemnly and sternly, speaking fluent ancient Hermetic language. "It's my luck to be your teacher." "Teacher." Susie walked from Asta to Mr. Rabbit, leaned down, and said respectfully, "You will be my most proud student in the future." Mr. Rabbit personally helped Susie up and asked kindly, "What languages and characters have you learned?" "Loon, Hermetic language, Ancient Hermetic language, Intis language." Susie said all the languages and characters she knew. "I taught them all." Audrey wanted to shout happily, and she was also proud of it. Asta looked at this scene with a smile on his face. What he had said to Susie before was also a promise. This scene is a historic moment, and it will definitely be written in history books in the future. You read these books first. I will come to see you later. I hope you can study hard and strive to explore the boundaries of knowledge. Mr. Rabbit took out a stack of books from the air. There were about 34 books, divided into 2 parts, and piled in front of Susie, almost exceeding his height. I will check your learning progress from time to time. If you encounter any questions you don't understand, you can write them down on paper first, and I will answer them one by one when I come next time. I understand, teacher. Woof, Susie excitedly barked again after saying this, and almost rolled back and forth on the ground with joy. But in order to maintain its image in front of its teacher, it still tried to restrain its impulse. Don't let me down. Mr. Rabbit looked at Susie with relief and nodded with satisfaction. Mr. Rabbit did not stay for long. After giving a few more instructions, he said goodbye to Asta and Susie and left the manor. Susie reluctantly followed him out of the manor and went far away to see him off. When Susie returned to the manor, Asta had asked people to move these books to a study room dedicated to Susie so that she could study well in the next period of time. Azishara looked at Susie with a puzzled look on her face. What was going on? A big golden retriever worshipped a red-eyed rabbit as his teacher? Was it seeing things? Or was this world just too crazy? Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. This world is too crazy. Even mice can be bridesmaids for cats. Hastur understood Azishara's thoughts at the moment, and the soft part of his heart was touched. On the other side, Audrey was about to call Susie and talk to her about what an interesting experience it was to be a student of Mr. Hermes. But Susie didn't even look back, and went straight to her study and began to flip through the books left by her teacher. Well, she planned to read late at night. This is the illusion that Mr. Hastur once told her. It is said that there is an advanced version of hanging the head on the beam and piercing the thigh with a needle. It can't do this, it can only read late at night. Let it go. This enthusiasm for reading will last for at least several days, Hastur said, looking at Azishara. Azishara looked away with guilt. She didn't have such enthusiasm for reading. The vast ocean of words made her eyes blurry. If Miss Sharon hadn't forced her to read before, she wouldn't be able to speak Loan language well now. At night, Susie still stayed in the study room, and Azishara also stayed in Susie's study room, saying that she wanted to urge Susie to study hard. Audrey and Hastur, who were left behind, sat on the balcony on the second floor, enjoying the stars and the moon in the suburban sky while drinking and chatting. "Mr. Hastur, do you want to get me drunk tonight?"
Audrey, who had already drunk a lot of wine and had red cheeks, asked innocently. "I do have such an idea. After all, it's rare to see Miss Audrey drunk." Hastur chuckled and took the wine glass from Audrey's hand, flicking her nose. "If you drink too much, you will have a headache tomorrow."
Mr. Hastur seems to have forgotten that I am now a dreamwalker of Sequence 5. Audrey gently snuggled in Hastur's arms and said affectionately, "I want to go to Mr. Hastur's dream tonight."
"What if I see content that is not suitable for children?"
"What is content that is not suitable for children?"
Audrey's reaction. She was obviously stunned for a moment, but she quickly reacted and changed the subject with a slightly red face. "When I was in Backland, I once entered Ms. Furz's dream."
"Her dreams are not very safe. Don't break into other people's dreams at will in the future, especially those who hide big secrets." "Mr. Asta, do you want to hear what kind of scenes appeared in Ms. Furz's dream?" Audrey said in an obviously unnatural tone. "It is also related to Mr. Asta." "Is it a scene where Furz prayed devoutly to the stars?"
But Audrey should know that Furz is a believer in the stars, and it is normal to have such a scene.
"I'm joking, I don't want to disclose Ms. Furz's personal privacy." Before Asta answered, Audrey had already ended the topic. This undoubtedly aroused Asta's curiosity. Personal privacy? Is it those unspeakable beautiful scenes between Furz and Zio? That really shouldn't be leaked to the outside world.
Suddenly I envy Audrey's ability to walk in dreams.
"Oh, he has one too, that's fine. Mr. Asta, don't let your mind wander." Audrey reminded Asta coquettishly, her cheek pressed against his shoulder. "I've already let my mind wander." Asta gently stroked Audrey's slender waist, smelling the alluring body fragrance.
Audrey blushed, remained silent for a long time, and then whispered, "Tonight, Susie is not here." "Huh." Asta's heart suddenly became hot. Is there a better invitation than this?
"Well, Azishara is not here either." "Yes." Audrey buried her head shyly, and was held in Asta's arms, and then carried to the big bed in the bedroom. In the early morning, Azishara yawned out of Susie's study, and walked on the corridor on the second floor with obviously sleepy eyes. Last night, it chose to stay in Susie's study to rest, nominally to supervise Susie's reading, but actually because it didn't believe Susie would read all night. In the end, it was proved that Susie was far more perseverant than it thought. She had been reading since last night's dinner until this morning. It was too sleepy. Ashera yawned and prepared to go downstairs to eat something and then have a good sleep. When she passed by Miss Audrey's room, she saw that Miss Audrey's door was still closed. Is she still asleep? It's already past 9 in the morning, right? Humph, she's even more sleepy than me. Azishara walked by with her head slightly raised, went downstairs, and began to taste the food. At lunch, Hastur came out of Audrey's room. To be precise, he was pushed out by the shy Audrey. Alas, he is already a Beander. What will happen if he skips a meal? Even if he doesn't eat for a day, it won't be a problem. Hastur left with a sigh. When he passed by Susie's study, Susie was still concentrating on reading. Azishara returned to being a little black cat, sleeping lazily in the sunshine on the windowsill. He didn't bother her, and went to the bathroom to wash up and take a bath before going downstairs to have lunch. After waiting for about half an hour, Audrey finally came downstairs. Although her expression looked very natural, there was still a little blush on both sides of her cheeks. Like a shy flower, it was blooming little by little. Seeing Asta looking at her with a smile on his face, Audrey suppressed her shyness, walked down the stairs naturally, and sat at the dining table to enjoy lunch. Susie is still concentrating on reading. It seems that she will also stay in the study tonight. Faced with Asta's pointed question, Audrey just hummed lightly and said nothing more. "Mr. Rabbit came at the right time yesterday. It seems that I will give him a gift to express my gratitude when we meet next time." Audrey pursed her red lips and still did not speak. "I heard that there may be a meteor shower across the night sky of the southern continent tonight. It's just right for people to prepare some wine and food, and watch it comfortably on the second-floor rooftop." At this time, Audrey, who had finished lunch calmly and elegantly, glanced at Asta. "So you are such a Mr. Asta. You should have known it very well last night." Audrey really couldn't stand such a conversation.
Her face quickly turned red, and she gave Asta a white look of shame and anger. Tonight, Susie is still working late in the study, and Ashera wants to see how many nights Susie can hold on.
Tonight, a meteor shower passed through the territory of the southern continent in the night sky. Tonight, Asta was thick-skinned and was not rejected.
The original plan for a 3-day vacation at the suburban manor was extended to a week.
In early August, it was the hottest season of summer, but in addition to the thick haze that could not be dispelled, there were also scattered snowflakes falling in the sky of Backland. Falling on the skin, it brought a little early winter cold.
In the history of Backland, it has never snowed so early in August or even September and October.
Generally, it will not snow in the sky until October. This time point is about half a month later than the cities of the Kingdom of Phainapot at the same latitude.
At that time, the nobles of Backland said proudly, "It is the enthusiasm of the people of the Kingdom of Lowen that dispelled the winter cold, and the heavy snow cannot extinguish the blood and ambition of the Kingdom of Lowen."
Now, the snow has fallen more than 2 months in advance. Many residents of Backland think this is a good omen, but more residents think it is an ominous sign. Especially those workers who need to work hard, they complained.
Winter is coming in August, and they need to buy winter clothes in advance, and they also need to spend extra money on heating.
The wood for heating is not cheap, and the cold weather will make many jobs that are not easy to do even more difficult.
As for those homeless people and beggars, they have always been a group that cannot make a voice.
Faced with the increasingly turbulent public opinion environment, the Lowen royal family had to come forward and spend a large sum of money in advance to set up a special winter heating plan to ensure that every resident of Backland will not be defeated by the cold. At the same time, it was preached that this was a large-scale curse deliberately created by the evil wizards who invaded the northern continent from the southern continent. Fortunately, with the protection of the goddess of night, the evil curse did not spread, invaded lives, and caused unnecessary panic.
When the news of snow in Backland reached Southwell County, it became another rhetoric.
Grek, who was gradually becoming more ambitious, and other members of the Niggin family and the Hall family who were equally ambitious, began to preach, with the tacit approval of Hastur, that this was the Lowen royal family's unreasonable behavior and immoral behavior. So the sky fell with ominous snow to warn all living beings. This is the wrath of heaven. Heaven is angry and people are resentful, and then people rebel.
This is a very normal and reasonable historical process. The wave of the times, this is the rhetoric that Adam always likes to talk about. Now a new wave of the times has emerged, a wave of the times that deviates from what Adam expected.
The reason is that this is the subsequent impact of Adam killing the eternal sun. Originally, this may not be a big deal, but sometimes a small protruding reef may also give birth to a new wave. The wave of the times set off by Adam, and then deviated from the wave of the times he expected. It's like a boomerang, thrown out, and it will always come back in the end. Unfortunately, Adam should not understand the boomerang theory, nor will he understand that the person who created the wave of the times will eventually be affected by the wave of the times. Above the Hall of Stars, Hastur calmly watched the development of everything. The current situation is generally good for him. It depends on what Adam and the goddess of night will do next.
If they do nothing, the kingdom of Phainapot will be flattened in a year or two, the faith of the mother goddess of the earth will collapse, and his anchor will no longer be stable. Once the fallen mother goddess and the mother tree of desire exert their strength, his end will only be fall. The border between Phainaport Kingdom and Dissy County of Lowen Kingdom is supported by Dissy County. The battlefield here is not as fierce as other places. But the atmosphere of war has gradually shifted in this direction. In a hub city for transporting materials, in order to supply the battlefield in front, a large number of food materials have been collected here. Some unscrupulous merchants raised the price of food step by step. The kingdom was busy with the war and did not intervene in these small matters. Food is gold. Look at this warehouse full of food, which is enough to exchange for the gold pounds of a big house. Hush, keep your voice down. If those refugees know that there is a large amount of food stored here, they will definitely come here to rob. Yes, we still guard this place. At least our family can have enough food to survive this cold winter with our current job. A large barn located in the suburbs of the northern district claimed that all the food had been sold out,
At this moment, several guards on duty were chatting. The later it gets, the more attention needs to be paid to security work. There are always some refugees who are unwilling to give up and come to the ground to pick up corn kernels that may have been left on the ground.
When the night is completely shrouded, the temperature gradually drops, and white snowflakes spread again.
In the dark environment, there are only 2 or 3 oil lamps to illuminate.
At this moment, a white light slowly approaches the fluttering snowflakes.
Is that a person? A person who seems to be made up of pure light?
That's not a person, that's the messenger who often appears late at night to lead the light.
I've seen similar reports in the newspaper, saying that his appearance always brings hope and light.
He is walking towards us. Are we lucky enough to be blessed tonight?
When several guards were discussing excitedly, they suddenly heard a noisy sound of footsteps behind the silent light and shadow, which seemed so messy in the snowy night. They couldn't help but frown and hold up the not-so-bright oil lamp to see clearly. No, my God, there is a group of homeless refugees following behind him.
They are coming in this direction. Quickly, turn off all the lights, don't point them in the direction.
After a panic, they turned off all the lights in front of the barn door, but the light and shadow still walked towards where they were firmly. When the light and shadow appeared in front of them, the smiling expression seemed to see through all their embarrassing actions and hearts one by one. Before they had time to speak, the light and shadow dissipated in front of them, and then, dozens of hungry refugees followed the direction of the light and shadow, broke through the obstruction, entered the barn, and began to rob the food stored here.
The guards who wanted to resist reluctantly saw that there were too many refugees, and finally joined the action of robbing food. On the city streets not far from here, the street lights were concentrated in the only prosperous area, and other places were dark, without any light or shadow. Hastur was sitting outside the window of a cafe on the street. Opposite him sat a familiar figure, the evil spirit Medici who had escaped from the underground ruins of Backland. At this moment, he seemed to have gotten rid of the entanglement of Soren and Einhorn, and completely dominated his consciousness. Hastur was not surprised to meet Medici here. Since the Battle of Fainaport began, he would appear in various places as the incarnation of light almost every night, leaving behind legends that guided light and hope. It was too late to meet the Red Priest who represented the war until now. I think Medici came to the Fainaport kingdom recently. He didn't come before to prevent the war here from escalating. Hastur saw a lot of things in an instant. Should I call you the messenger of light or the stars? Medici was the first to speak and break the silence. Do you mind these 2 titles? Yes. Medici nodded sincerely. If your current identity is the stars, then we are enemies. If you are the messenger of light who spreads light and hope, then this is our first meeting.
Your faith in the ancient sun god is as firm as ever.
Asta has no intention of taking action tonight. He has no ill feelings toward Medici, and there is no obvious conflict of interest. Unlike Aurelius, who possesses the extraordinary characteristics that will needs. On the 2 extraordinary paths of Witch and Red Priest, Hastur has only Ashera as a kitten around him, and it is still far from the level of Medici. Medici leaned back slightly and said with a smile, I don't like to believe in a second existence, otherwise I might really choose to believe in the stars.
It's a pity that your sincere admiration has not been exchanged for a reward of equal value.
Faith comes from one's own heart and is not mixed with other people's selfish desires. Faith with a utilitarian heart is too dirty. Medici folded his hands behind his head, looking at ease and leisurely, almost those legs were on the table. I once made a deal with Adam, but he has not fulfilled it until today. Hastur glanced at Medici and said, You have a sequence 1 extraordinary characteristic that belongs to me. This is what he got in exchange for 008. One of the costs. Ha ha ha, I already knew that you bastard Medici would be abandoned. A face appeared on the left side of Medici's face, and then the flesh and blood on the right side of his face squirmed to reveal another face. Do you think that by suppressing the consciousness of the 2 of us, you can regain your former majesty as the Red Angel? In the end, you are still the same, it's just an abandoned piece. It will only end up like that stupid snake of Aurelius.
No, your fate will be worse than that stupid snake. Yes, Aurelius has been faithfully following the true creator for so many years. And you have already been abandoned once. It's not a big deal to be abandoned again. Just die with your devout beliefs. Neither Adam nor the true Creator is a good thing, and the same is true for the ancient sun god. No wonder the three angel kings chose to betray. Facing the cynicism of Sauron and Einhorn, Medici had a bright smile on his face and said proudly, "It's a pity that you no longer have any sense of existence except for your mouth. Don't worry, we will witness the day when you are abandoned like a lost dog. Wait slowly." Medici was not angry because of this. He lazily raised his right hand and pressed Soren's face on his right cheek. "Before doing this, you must first taste what despair is. Bar." Then he raised his left hand and pressed Einhorn's face, who was about to shout harsh words. "Now, don't disturb my conversation with this messenger of light. I'm going to make you laugh. They are really not quiet, they are always noisy." Medici still had a smile on his face, and it seemed that his mood was not affected. Asta said with a smile, "They still care too much about their aristocratic status. There is really nothing new in their curse words. At the worst, they should be scolded and treated like dogs. It is rare for them to be treated like dogs. What do you think?" This time, the expression on Medici's face softened, as if he had been stabbed in a vital point, and his eyes were as cold as the 12th lunar month of winter. "Based on what I know about Adam, he will definitely complete the deal with me and personally deliver a copy of the Conqueror's extraordinary characteristics to me. He doesn't dare to wait too long because I am catching up." Seeing that Medici was silent, Asta glanced at the street and whispered, "Your arrival means the escalation of the war. Are you preparing to see off the Earth Mother Goddess?" The initial barrier cracked, and the kingdom of the Goddess of the Earth has gradually affected the state of the Kingdom of God because of the recent destruction of the churches of the Goddess of the Earth in the Kingdom of Fenport, and the removal of anchors of faith one by one. Just like the original barrier, this place is now filled with terrifying cracks, like lenses that have been broken and then re-glued back together. The speed of healing of the Earth cannot match the speed of destruction, and the green forests in China gradually wither and grow old. This is the kingdom of God where leaves never fall, but today one after another withered yellow leaves flowed to the ground, never falling back into reincarnation to nourish the earth like in the past. Well, one sigh was too much for the gods. Winter will eventually turn to spring, and all things will revive. The voice of the goddess of the night came over. "I'm not as confident about the future as you are." The Mother Earth looked up at the falling leaves, stretched out her hand to catch a leaf that had just fallen, and almost murmured, "I have had a bad premonition recently, you should understand what such signs mean. They all thought you were dead at first, but you still came back alive, and the same is true now." Facing the encouragement from the night goddess, the Earth Mother Goddess just smiled and said, "The fallen Mother Goddess has been too quiet recently, which gives me a very bad feeling. You have been too confused recently, so you should calm down first, and I will take care of other things." The goddess of the night looked down at the land below from the kingdom of God. "Your church is collapsing, and it is also being regenerated at the same time. This is a seesaw process." In order to help the Earth Mother overcome this difficulty, he allowed the Earth Mother to preach on a large scale in the Loan Kingdom. At the same time, he actively spread the faith of the Earth Mother in the Faesak Empire, and new churches were being built one after another. The purpose is to provide the Earth Mother Goddess with a buffer zone after the demise of the Kingdom of Feniport, so that the Kingdom of God will not collapse due to the lack of the anchor of faith, allowing the fallen Mother Goddess and the Mother Tree of Desire to take advantage of the situation. You should understand that faith does not happen overnight, and it is far easier to destroy than to build. Above the Hall of Stars, Hastur has ended his communication with Medici. This staunch follower of the ancient sun god will not abandon Adam and the true creator even if he is betrayed again. Hastur was too lazy to waste too much time with him. He ended tonight's bright guidance and returned to the Hall of Stars. He found that the enlightened Saint Master's potion in his body was accelerating digestion. It is estimated that by the end of this year, the performance will be completed and the magic potion will be completely digested. The reason for such rapid progress is inseparable from his efforts every night, and it is also attributed to helping Silver City leave the land abandoned by God. Although the specific executioners were Bernadette and Klein, it was also his guidance that could complete this matter. This is completely in line with the role of the Enlightenment Saint Master. In addition, the affairs of the Yellow Clothes Church also accelerated the digestion of the Enlightenment Saint Master's potion.
Hastur carefully summarized his gains during this period, and then turned his attention to the sequence 2-star attendants and the sequence 1-star singer. There is no threshold for him to become a sequence 2-star attendant. Once he is promoted, the magic potion can be completely digested, and he can directly be promoted to a sequence 1-star singer. At that time, he needs to leave the real world and go to the stars. This will be his most dangerous period of time.
Need to prepare well. In September, the heavy snowfall in Backland had reached its heaviest level in previous years, and there were many frozen corpses of homeless people on the streets.
Specialized personnel patrol the streets every day and bury the bodies together with the heavy snow.
In October, the heavy snowfall in Backland became more serious, becoming the biggest snow disaster in Backland's history.
When many people woke up, their doorways were buried and blocked by thick snow, making it impossible to even open the door. For some people, their roofs could not bear the weight of the heavy snow and their houses collapsed.
People without homes and heating conditions froze to death in the snowy night where they could not wake up. The nobles are hiding in their homes and still enjoying a luxurious life that is not much different from before. Backland Morning News, Loon Express, Times Briefing, and other major newspapers and organizations have written articles to ridicule this year's snow disaster.
The title is, Heavy Snow Helps the Lowen Kingdom Make a Great Contribution to Solving National Poverty, All the Poor People Died. Close double angle bracket.
In November, this rare heavy snowfall intensified again, the temperature plummeted, and there were no workers working in the factory.
Because entrepreneurs found that the money spent on heating costs was much greater than the wages paid to workers.
Unable to survive, the workers launched a series of looting and burning activities, which soon triggered a crackdown by official agencies.
In response, the Lowen royal family had to allocate a large amount of money again to deal with the snow disaster.
The meager bailout was declared over even before it lasted until December.
As for other places, except for the southern continent and the Rosyth Islands, which are far away from the sea, the entire territory of Lowen was covered by heavy snow, and the scale of the snow disaster further expanded. In South Wales, Gleek read the newspapers sent from other places with excitement.
All of them, without exception, accused the Lowen royal family of arbitrarily participating in wars, failing in disaster relief, and other crimes.
Very good. Greg patted his thigh excitedly, knowing that the opportunity he had been waiting for had come. The situation in Southwell County is not as bad as Backland. The residents here are very tolerant of snow, and even their joy is far greater than their hatred.
Because there has not been a decent heavy snow here for more than 10 years, this time is considered to be a treat. In addition, Southwell County has a strong financial situation, and a large part of the funds are spent on winter subsidies to ensure that workers do not stop working but get paid, which is in sharp contrast to Backland and the City of Hope.
Duke Negan, we have contacted some senior officials in Dacey County and East Tucker County. They are also dissatisfied with the current situation of the Kingdom of Lowen and believe that the Kingdom of Lowen must change a ruling family. They think our Negan family is the most suitable choice. A middle-aged man in his 30s is reporting the latest situation to Greg.
This is a member of the Negan family who is close to Greg. Is the method you mentioned last time to seize power through peaceful means really feasible? Greg is still a little confused. The middle-aged man smiled and said, there are 3 main points of dissatisfaction between the people of the Kingdom of Lowen and the Lowen royal family. The first is that the Kingdom of Lowen has been involved in endless wars, the second is the snowstorm incident, and the third is the serious inequality of status and wealth between the wealthy nobles and the poor people. As long as Duke Negan can stand up and wave his arm to show that he is capable of solving these problems, he will definitely gain many supporters and force the Lowen royal family to step down. Even if the Lowen royal family intends to provoke a war, we are in South Wales, where we can attack or defend. In addition, with the heavy snow, they simply cannot choose to solve the problem with force. Greg listened to the analysis silently, and he knew what was going on, so he acquiesced to the progress of this matter. After Greg left, the middle-aged man whispered, supporting the Negan family to replace the Augustus family is also the trend of the times.
In December, the heavy snowstorm worsened again, and the Lowen royal family was already busy and exhausted. At this time, Greg Negan of Southwell County stood up and put all the blame for the war and snowstorm on the Lowen royal family, and asked them to step down and return power and peace to all the people of Lowen. Under the banner of ending the war and rescuing the snowstorm, Greg soon gained a lot of followers, and there was a considerable force in each county that responded to Greg's call. As the capital of Backland, the Lowen royal family received more than thousands of letters from all over the country in one day. The content was roughly the same, all asking the Lowen royal family to step down and replace Greg's Negan family with the power. The familiar situation immediately aroused the Lowen royal family's vigilance. When deciding whether to provide assistance to Fainaport, there was a group of people who also did this. They didn't want to pay attention to this small wave set off by Greg, but as the snowstorm became more and more serious, and the news of a small-scale battle defeat on the front line came, it undoubtedly intensified the conflict and boosted Greg's power. Greg once again shouted the slogan of ending the war, and this time he won more people to follow. Backland, the Lowen royal family held an emergency meeting to discuss how to solve this matter. The current situation is not good. The war for more than half a year has consumed too much money and food. Coupled with the heavy snow, we can't solve these problems at the moment. The military has also received unpleasant news recently. Some generals are planning to respond to the call and end this war. The royal family members discussed urgently for a while, and then called Archbishop Anthony of the Church of the Goddess of the Night to ask him about the will of the gods. This war was originally instructed by the gods, otherwise the Lowen kingdom would not have done its best to help Fainapotter. Archbishop Anthony seemed very calm in the face of today's meeting. He just said calmly, 3 days later, a miracle will appear in Backland to end this heavy snowstorm. Miracle? Which god will show up to show miracles and end this extremely extreme snowfall? God of steam and machinery. Impossible. Since the war began, the people of the Steam Church have obviously not been very active. Adam and the true creator have a bad reputation and should not show up in public. That leaves only the goddess of night. The authority of night and the heavy snow. Is this going to freeze everyone in Backland to death? The members of the Lowen royal family only dared to murmur in their hearts, but they dared not speak out to offend the gods casually. Go down and prepare. The miracle will come in 3 days. This is your best chance to redeem your image. Archbishop Anthony did not stay for too long. He just gave a few instructions and returned to St. Samuel Church. When he was heading to the prayer hall, he happened to meet Leonard, who rarely showed a gentle smile on his face. Choose such a snowy day to come to the church to pray. I have always seen your piety to the goddess. Leonard was silent for a while, then smiled and said, I have resigned as the captain of the Red Glove Squad. This should be the last time I come here to pray to the goddess. For a long time, he was a believer of the goddess, but since the old man encountered Amen many times, he gradually lost his faith in the goddess. Now, the goddess of night and the stars of Hastur are obviously in different camps. He can only choose to leave the church of the goddess of night and stay away from Backland. I think I will miss the time you stayed here. May the goddess protect you forever. Thank you for your blessing. Leonard finally took another look at the holy emblem of the goddess of night. When he turned around and took 2 steps, Archbishop Anthony called him and told him that a miracle would come in 3 days, so he should not miss this event. Walking out of the gate of St. Samuel's Church, Leonard stretched and felt much more relaxed, but the next second, he yawned, quickly wrapped his black coat tightly, shrank his head, and quickened his pace to leave. The heavy snow that never stopped for a quarter of an hour covered the entire road. The snow was so thick that no carriages could be seen on the road. Only in the Queen's area, there were fixed personnel to shovel snow every day, and carriages could barely pass. Leonard, who walked in the heavy snow for almost 2 hours before returning home, quickly lit the fireplace, boiled some water, made a cup of hot coffee, and sat in the rocking chair in front of the fireplace with a blanket on, and sighed comfortably. He took 2 sips of hot coffee, paused for a while and said, Old man, you should have heard what Archbishop Anthony said just now. Which god do you think will descend in 3 days? Mother Earth. A lazy voice came from Leonard's body. Why? The authority of the goddess of night will only aggravate the heavy snow,
causing more people to die from the cold, and the Mother Earth controls the ability of all things to revive and reproduce. Winter is gone and spring is within her ability. Pales paused and continued. Since winter can come early, spring can naturally come early. 3 days later is a good opportunity to watch. The situation in the kingdom of Faenaport is so serious. Why does the Mother Earth still want to come to Backland to hold a divine descent? What you said is exactly why the Mother Earth needs to hold a divine descent in Backland and show miracles. Leonard finally understood something. The Mother Earth, who was facing the collapse of faith, needed to show miracles to consolidate and spread her faith. Old man, I didn't expect you to be so smart. I just learned how to use my brain correctly. Leonard muttered dissatisfiedly. If you are really that smart, do you still need to hide in my body? Stupid people need guidance from famous teachers. Leonard knew that he couldn't win the argument with the old man, so he chose to shut up very smartly. 3 days passed quickly. In order to restore their image, the Lowen royal family began to actively promote and build momentum after receiving the notice from Archbishop Anthony, striving to let all the people of the Lowen kingdom see that the status of the Lowen royal family is orthodox, sacred, and inviolable. It was their piety that moved the gods, so that the gods decided to come and dispel the heavy snow. In order to expand their influence, the Lowen royal family once again used the imaging technology that George III used to give a pre-war speech to advance to Sequence 0, so that what was happening in Backland could be spread throughout the Lowen kingdom. What surprised the Lowen royal family was that the busiest church on the day of the god's descent was not the church of the goddess of night, but the church of the Mother Earth. As the time of the god's descent approached, the Lowen kingdom sent a respected royal member to give a tearful speech. After the speech, the believers of the Church of the Mother Earth knelt down and prayed devoutly. The dark gray heavy clouds in the sky were torn apart, and a light green light representing life fell from the sky. For the people living in Backland, the light falling from the sky is an extremely rare gift, especially in the past few months when the heavy snow has been raging. They all hope that the sun's light can penetrate the clouds and disperse the heavy snow. Now a new light of hope has come. When the light green light falls on the ground, the snow on the ground begins to melt silently. In the eyes of everyone who is looking forward to it, the Mother Earth goddess descends into the eyes of all those who are looking at this place. When his feet just touched the ground, a green life aura, with Backland as the center, spread rapidly to the entire territory of the Kingdom of Lowen, and also to the territory of the Kingdom of Faenapotter, which was burning with war. After the life aura spread, the shadow of the Earth Mother, which was originally quite illusory, gradually solidified. Wheat ears grew under his feet, surrounded by spring water, and his dress was flowing and swaying, with various herbs and flowers inserted, and depicting the images of different animals. His chest was bulging high, and one hand was holding an illusory cute baby hidden in a swaddling cloth, and the other hand was holding a dark brown wooden stick. The whole was holy and dignified. Only his facial features were still blurred, making it impossible to see his true appearance. The Earth Mother did not speak, but gently inserted the dark brown wooden stick in her hand into the soil under her feet. The power of the Earth Mother began to flow, and the authority of life revival began to take effect. The heavy snow in the sky stopped, the heavy clouds dispersed, and the sun that had been hidden for a long time appeared. The warm sunshine once again fell on every life within the authority of the Mother Earth, regardless of human or animal. The light of life flowed through all living beings, and new hope began to brew. The creatures that were dying in the cold winter and heavy snow suddenly felt a little more strength in their bodies, and the people curled up in the bed also stretched out their bodies comfortably. Leonard, who was still staying in Backland and standing slightly forward, also felt the light of life from the Mother Earth. It was warm and comfortable, as if he was soaking in a hot spring, making people close their eyes and start to enjoy it. Leonard quickly broke away from this comfortable feeling. He looked around and saw that most people were still closing their eyes to feel the revival of life in their bodies. Only a few people were able to recover from that state. This warm light gradually dissipated, and with the wooden stick in the hand of the Mother Earth as the center, the green grass began to break out of the ground. The old trees that had lost all their leaves were rejuvenated and grew green leaves, and the various flowers that were dying due to the heavy snow began to cheer up and bloom.
The miracle of life began to unfold at this moment.
Winter was dispelled and spring was ushered in. Is this the power of the Mother Earth?
The selfless dedication like the earth allows the lives of all living things to revive.
Leonard's eyes were complicated. If he had encountered such a god in his youth, he would have chosen to believe in the Mother Earth and always admire the miracle of life.
The power of the gods is too sacred and too unattainable in the eyes of ordinary people. The believers of the Church of the Mother Earth will naturally not miss the opportunity to publicize the holiness of the Mother Earth.
The voices praising life and praising the Mother Earth rose and fell, forming a wave of devout voices of faith.
The Earth Mother, who was the focus of everyone, still had her eyes slightly closed at this moment. She was spreading her authority and power to the entire territory of the Kingdom of Lowen and the Kingdom of Feynet. It was not just Backland who had experienced the change of winter and the arrival of spring. If it were not for the fact that the territory of the Feysak Empire had already gotten used to the heavy snow, and there were not many believers here, a new spring would have come this time.
Praise life. Praise the gift of the Earth Mother. The members of the Lowen royal family also hurriedly stood up at this time to use the miracles of the gods to redeem their poor image.
The harvest effect was still very good, and even Leonard looked at them with a slightly more pleasing look.
The people in other parts of the Kingdom of Lowen saw with their own eyes the cessation of heavy snow and the miracle of spring revival. They were all overwhelmed with emotions and gratitude. People knelt down to worship the miracle.
When this miracle of spring revival arrived in the Kingdom of Feynet, it caused a violent turmoil. It made the tired soldiers full of vigorous fighting spirit again and pushed back part of the battle situation. Backland, the mother goddess of the earth who had completed her miracle needs, was ready to end her descent and return to the kingdom of God in heaven.
Just as he rose high into the sky, his figure suddenly shook, and then exploded into countless small green dots of light. The shadow of the Earth Mother Goddess exploded in midair. This scene was seen by the believers who were still kneeling and praying below, bringing unimaginable shock.
Did the gods they believed in fall just like this? The people of the Lowen royal family were even more frightened. How familiar this scene was.
King George III was also here. When he was giving a speech, his whole body suddenly exploded and then fell.
Is the Earth Mother Goddess going to repeat the fate of George III?
This scene also fell into the eyes of Hastur on the Hall of Stars. He was just thinking about whether to take action against the Earth Mother Goddess. Let him walk the path that George III had walked, but before he could take action, the shadow of the Earth Mother Goddess descending on Backland suddenly exploded in midair. Although this was not the real body of the Earth Mother Goddess, such a shocking change at such a critical moment meant that the real body of the Earth Mother Goddess was facing an extremely terrifying threat, so that he was unable to take care of his own shadow of the god. Hastur's eyes swept through the starry sky in front of him. The Mother Tree of Desire did not move. Only the fallen Mother Goddess had such ability.
The fallen Mother Goddess, who had been silent for a long time, hit the Mother Goddess of Earth hard with one move. It can be seen that the fallen Mother Goddess was not willing to sit back and watch the Mother Goddess of Earth increase her faith and stabilize the kingdom of God in this way.
So she chose this critical moment today to take action.
Fallen Mother Goddess, you are anxious. Hastur had a faint smile on his face, and had no intention of taking action at all. It was just right to see what the fallen Mother Goddess could do. The awakening of God greatly stimulated the fallen Mother Goddess's sense of crisis, forcing him to take such an extreme approach. When the Mother Goddess of Earth was severely hit by the fallen Mother Goddess, the crimson moon in the sky, which was supposed to appear at night, flashed a deadly and attractive red light and appeared from the starry sky. The two extraordinary paths lost by the fallen Mother Goddess in the real world are currently controlled by the Earth Mother Goddess Lilith. With her attack, the two extraordinary paths of the moon and the Mother will break away from the control of the Earth Mother Goddess, fly into the starry sky, and return to the hands of the fallen Mother Goddess. The two sides fought fiercely on the crimson moon, and Hastur could even feel the breath of the Desire Mother Tree that was deliberately dormant. He also didn't want to see the Earth Mother Goddess stabilize the kingdom of God, but he was not as eager as the fallen Mother Goddess, so he could sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Circles of red ripples of competition continued to ripple out from the crimson moon. This scene fell into the eyes of Backland's believers,
and it was particularly full of fatal temptation, especially those who were praying devoutly to the Earth Mother Goddess. Their bodies, under the light of the crimson moon, began to swell for no reason, and then burst like a balloon inflated to the limit. Some people mutated and turned into a pile of flesh and blood. Some people fell into madness and became monsters who had completely lost their minds. All kinds of terrible things were happening to them. In the eyes of others, this scene was like the most terrible hell. People who originally believed in the Mother Earth and praised the miracle of life were now frightened and ran away in panic, screaming loudly, and miserable wails and cries resounded throughout the sky of Backland. This was not a miracle of the gods at all, but a punishment from the gods, a curse, and pollution. Leonard, who was in the middle of it, saw it very clearly. He saw with his own eyes that on the streets where the snow had just melted, there was blood flowing like a stream or river. Leonard's voice was hoarse and trembling. "Old man, what is going on? Why did such a sudden change happen?"
Pallas was silent for a long time before he said with emotion, "This is pollution from the starry sky. You'd better leave Backland quickly. If you stay here for too long, you will be in danger."
"I can't resist the pollution from the starry sky. Staying away from it is the wisest choice we can take at this moment." Leonard's heart fell to the bottom of the valley. He looked at the world covered by crimson light with reluctance and hesitation. In this world of crimson light, more and more people are mutating. There are shapes that can be described, as well as deformities that cannot be described. The spirit is also frantically warning him. The skin on his arm begins to itch, and it seems that there are invisible worms wriggling in the flesh, trying to break through the constraints of the skin and grow granulations.
"Go," Pales reminded again in a serious tone. Leonard did not hesitate any longer and ran away from Backland at a high speed. There are many extraordinary people who have the same idea as him. An extraordinary person who was only 2 meters away from Leonard was still running in fear in the last second. In the next second, his head was separated from his body. Bloody tentacles grew out of the severed head, like a big red squid. The remaining half of the lower body ran forward for more than 10 meters without any consciousness, and then fell to the ground.
Leonard, who witnessed this horrific phenomenon, felt his scalp tingling, his mouth dry, and his whole body itchy, as if countless small insects were about to crawl out of his skin.
"Pray to the stars or the fool." Pales sensed something was wrong and reminded Leonard again.
In this change, the believers of the Mother Earth and the Goddess of Night are most likely to be affected. The extraordinary path Leonard took was the path of darkness. Even if he tried his best, it would be difficult to compete with the pollution from the starry sky. Only great beings like the stars and the fool could resist and purify this pollution.
The fool who does not belong to this era. The mysterious master above the gray fog.
The yellow and black king who controls good luck. Leonard finally chose to seek help from Mr. Fool, not only because he also participated in the Tarot Club and was a member of the Tarot Club. There was another reason. The stars were Hasta, his friends. He always felt uncomfortable praying to the stars for help. Above the gray fog, it took only 10 seconds for Klein's figure to appear here from hearing the call for help. "It's Leonard. Isn't he staying in Backland?" Klein's eyes followed Leonard's cry for help and found that Leonard was surrounded by a layer of light crimson light. The crimson light seemed to contain some kind of polluted power, which was constantly drilling into Leonard's body. Leonard was running at full speed, trying to get away, but it was obvious that his speed was not enough to support him to escape from the dangerous area covered by the crimson light in a short time. Is he going out to perform some dangerous mission? "Hey, the streets around here are a little familiar, Backland?"
Klein was shocked, and he didn't think about it anymore. It was more important to help Leonard first.
He quickly cut a paper angel and threw it towards Leonard's location.
Leonard, who was running, clearly saw in his mind that an angel was flying towards him with a sacred light.
The angel's light fell, dispelling the chill in his body, purifying the polluted power in his body, and the itchy feeling all over his body disappeared, replaced by the long-lost warmth. "Thank you for your kind help, Mr. Fool. I will pay you the necessary compensation." Leonard has learned the Tarot Club's equivalent exchange, and is ready to find a few resell diaries and hand them over to Mr. Fool after he is safe. Klein did not reply immediately, but carefully looked at the scenery near Leonard, and finally determined that it was Backland. Isn't that the place where the gods are watching? How could there be large-scale pollution? Where did the source of the pollution come from? Klein, who was full of doubts, saw that Leonard's condition had improved a lot, and tentatively said, "The pollution has spread." Yes, the pollution from the starry sky is spreading throughout Backland. The pollution of the starry sky. Klein subconsciously wanted to look up at the starry sky, but he hurriedly stopped his inner impulse. Originally, today was the auspicious day when the gods descended to dispel the extreme snow weather, but I didn't expect the phantom of the Mother Earth to explode in midair, and the crimson moon in the sky changed. The pollution spread from the starry sky to Backland. While fleeing, Leonard briefly explained to Mr. Fool what had just happened. God's descent, Mother Earth, crimson moon, pollution. Klein accurately extracted the key words in Leonard's words, and after a little thought, he restored what was happening in Backland. Could the pollution from the starry sky be caused by Mr. Hastur? Probably not. Even if Mr. Hastur wanted to deal with the Mother Earth, he would not vent his anger on the innocent people of Backland, where he had lived for many years. After confirming this, Klein felt relieved. As a fellow traverser, he did not want Mr. Hastur to be a person who would do anything to achieve his goals. As a human being, he should stick to a certain bottom line of humanity. Leave Backland. Klein pondered for a moment and gave Leonard a reminder and advice. Backland has now had such a big incident, and it will definitely become the center of the storm. Leonard and the grandfather in his body will easily be targeted by Eamon again. I will follow the guidance of Mr. Fool. Klein looked at Leonard for a while, and after confirming that there was nothing wrong with Leonard, he ended the conversation and sat alone at the bronze table to think. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.